Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this week's episode of the BeDifferential Podcast. I'm your host, Ava Gregory, and this week we are joined by Amanda Busick, motorsports reporter, but also very tenured resume. So I'm really excited to get into her story. But Amanda, welcome to this week's episode.
Thank you. I absolutely love the name of the podcast. It's so sweet. I love seeing people out there stepping outside of their comfort zone and doing something that matters and promoting something that matters. So thanks for having me, and I look forward to sharing the hour with you.
Well, I appreciate that so much. And it's such a cool thing for me because it really is different from what I normally do. Normally I'm a yapper, but I love on this podcast getting to hear other people's stories. So Amanda, why don't we give the listener just a little high level who you are before we really get into our conversation today?
So yeah, no, I agree with you. I think the roles are reversed, right? So I normally don't have to answer questions. I'm the one asking them, which I prefer. So I would say a little summary around me. I grew up in a small town in North Carolina, the daughter of a farmer and a business owner, and then my mom sort of the same. So we had, growing up in a rural town in North Carolina, for us, it was college sports and motorsports. And I wanted to do both. And somehow I lucked my way into all of this and have been able to kind of have my hands on both sides of that dream. But yeah, currently at present, I just celebrated my 10th year with the National Hot Rod Association. I do a little bit of NASCAR. I'm in my 5th year with the SRO organization that does GT racing. I am a product of saying yes to everything. And that includes taking the trash out of television trucks 13 years ago. So this is where I get to live in this space and time right now, and couldn't be more thankful.
I love that so much. And I definitely think you and I share the sentiment of just saying yes to everything and seeing what comes of it. Now, your career has taken off in so many ways, and you're stretched across multiple different types of motorsport and facets outside of motorsport as well. So besides being involved in NHRA, NASCAR, and these types of motorsport organizations, can you tell us really how did you get initially involved? You grew up in North Carolina, but what was kind of that entry into this industry?
Yeah, so it actually goes back to I went to North Carolina State for undergrad. I had such a unique college experience. They were doing this kind of introducing an entrepreneurship program as an actual degree within the university. And I just by chance was selected as the guinea pig student to go through the program. I had such a wonderful path in college that I wanted to, at that point, somehow extend that out working in education. And we were directly related with some of the stuff that was happening politically in Raleigh for the Department of Education as a state-funded college. And so I started working for the Department of Education in a virtual school program to bring access of whether it was advanced placement courses or additional foreign languages to students across the state of North Carolina. Loved.
That's amazing.
Unfortunately, with the recession, our fund wasn't refunded. So that was my first, hey, welcome to adulthood. You no longer have a job. Luckily, during college, because I was so passionate about media and wanted to somehow work in sports, I interned for the CBS affiliate in Greensboro for the sports department. So after that recession incident, I was like, maybe I should just, I'm doing nothing, so I might as well do what I love. And I started an internship in New York City with a sports agent and worked at a restaurant there at night to afford living in New York. Thought it would just be for a summer. At 22 years old, it's hard not to fall in love with New York City. So what was a summer turned into 2.5 years. But it was 2.5 years of me trying to find that next gig. And that took me to Chicago, working for IMG and Jerry Reinsdorf for a college sports startup that was on the digital side of media. Actually, looking back on it, it was at the time, it was ahead of its time. So we
Hmm.
did, it was called Campus Insiders. We had these insiders on campuses across the country. So if there was breaking news down in Missouri, we would call up Tom Ackerman to talk about what was happening with Mizzou. Just different things like that. And on my side, being the production assistant at a very small company, I had got my hands involved in a lot of stuff, which was really neat. So did
I
that for,
love that.
it was awesome. It really, it's that time in life too. I mean, there's one thing being 22 in New York City, and then there's also awesomeness of being 24, 25, 26 living in Chicago.
Honestly, yeah.
It was a good time of life for sure. I mean, Chicago in the summer is so fun. I had a lot of friends there, and obviously through work made a lot of friends too. So, going to a Cubs game on a Thursday night with a group of friends, there's just nothing like it. So yeah, so did that, and then my first foray into motorsports, drag racing, switched from ESPN to Fox in 2015 is when the switch was kind of happening. 2016 was the first season, and I had auditioned for the digital host side for the National Hot Rod Association and was hired, moved to Los Angeles. And it was probably within about 3 or 4 months, the Fox show started taking some of the stuff that I was doing on the digital side, and that was how it happened. So it
I
was
love that. That's such an exciting thing, especially at the age range you're describing. I mean, I love both of the cities that you mentioned, and it's really easy to fall in love with them. And also, what great environments to have the full exposure that you did to our various industries and your industries that you've been a part of. I love that so much. Do you think once you started in it, was it an immediate feeling of like, this is where I belong, like I'm going to stay here? Or did you kind of start exploring different types of roles and facets to see what you did and didn't like?
no drag racing felt so there was a group of us that moved to LA from across the country to kind of get this new like in-house media started for what was for a league like that to take ownership of their product and their distribution was very unique at the time. A lot of smaller leagues are doing that now. They'll do the production, and then you have a network that is strictly the distributor. Uh,
Right.
so for the NHRA to do that then, I think they were kind of their prior television deals they weren't happy with in terms of what the programming looked like, what the narrative was of how their sport was being presented. So the group of us that moved to LA, one became my best friend. She came from USA Today. And then another guy out of Oklahoma who was in Boston at the time. He's the most brilliant person I've ever met. We all still work on the show in different facets. So it really did feel like home. We would share responsibilities of driving to the office each and every day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it really did become your family. In terms of the drag racing, I feel like the question that I get asked most in my career is what's next, and I've
Hmm.
always hated that for that sport because it is such a special group of people to work around. I don't think that our drivers get enough credit for what they're doing, the commitment that it takes, and just how like soul crushing drag racing can be. I had an event with Antron Brown in Charlotte yesterday, and he was describing to the audience just how brutal it is that on a Sunday morning, if you don't make it past first round in 3.7 seconds, your entire weekend is over, and you're wondering why you even packed up and brought all your employees across the country for a race that you're no longer competing in. So yeah, drag racing is it definitely our teams, our drivers, our crew guys, they do not get enough credit, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it. I hope I'm there for the rest of my career.
I love that. I think, it's really, first of all, motorsports in general is so interesting. And the 3.7 seconds, I mean, that is a whole different meaning to the high pressure of what motorsports often is and how you see it. What are some things that in your work you feel like people don't see? I mean, you are on camera for a lot of your, roles that you have to perform. What happens behind the scenes that you think maybe is either misconstrued or that just people are unaware of that goes into your work?
Yeah, no, I think that is like so sort of like a driver, right? He's the front pace, or she or he is the front facing person that is the reflection of the work of all these people that are putting in inputs and to make it succeed. So
Yeah.
Antron was describing like all the pressure it is, like if you're done on round one, you've just let down like 60
Yeah.
people in your organization that are, bummed as well. So on our side,
Yeah.
like television, it is a team sport. There are, for our traveling circus with drag racing, there's probably 70 to 80 people each weekend. And while it's Brian Loans, Tony Pedregon, Bruno Massel, me, Jordan Vandergriff that you see on air, there's 60 people working alongside each other to deliver that 1 second of television, that
Wow.
graphic you see on the bottom of the screen, the stats that we're getting from one of our producers, the director making sure to call for the right shot at the right time. So we're all in this like synchronized dance together. And I take that really serious in the sense that if I mess up, I'm the reflection of their work. But you try not to you can't. I am a perfectionist. Newsflash, you can't be perfect. Uh, but I think the strive for perfection, knowing that there's people that are relying on you as well, is something that really motivates me.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point, and it really kind of segues into the next question that I had as well. Is you mentioned from a driver's perspective, there's this huge pressure from your role. There's a huge pressure on performance, on not having a negative domino effect on everyone else involved in the team. How do you navigate like the mental preparation that goes into, okay, we're going into race weekend. There's gonna be high pressure the whole time. I guess like how do you mentally prepare, and then how do you maybe like shake it off if you do make a mistake, because we're not perfect? How do you come back out of that? How do you just, okay, let me take a breath and get it over with and like move on?
Yeah, so I would say that, so this past weekend we had a race in Epping, New Hampshire, and all of that was on display for me. So on Saturday, our lead play-by-play, his son was graduating for college, or graduating for high school to head off to college. I was elevated to play-by-play. And if my boss would have told me that even probably 2-3 years ago, I would be, what? And so, but it was funny because I remember I had gotten, so I had to do this on Saturday. We were at the track on Friday. I left the track, and I decided that I was just going to pick up sushi takeout, go to the room, work on notes. And I'm sitting there. It's like, it's probably pushing like 11 o'clock, and I'm working on these. I do these boards to prepare for the weekend. And I kind of just said to myself, like, you have covered the sport for 10 years. Go to
Hmm.
bed. Go to
Yeah.
bed. And so I think that, there's a lot of, I think you build up trust within yourself. You build up
Hmm.
trust within your teammates. You build up trust within your boss. My boss put me in that position. No, like he wouldn't put me in there to fail.
He
So he
trusted you. Yeah.
put me in that position, yes, outside of my comfort zone, but yes, an opportunity to try something different for the show, try something different for me. And it was great. And you go into those moments knowing that mistakes are going to happen simply because you are a rookie.
Hmm.
And then you're seeing, like, I'd never called things off a monitor before. So then like things come up on the monitor. I'm like, oh, I'm looking for that, or I need this. So it's like learning in real time, which was really
Yeah.
me and the analyst, Tony Pedregon, we had a good time together. So I was really proud and happy with that. But then you talk about mistakes on Sunday. I'm back in my traditional role at the top end. And in one of our, the big moment for us up there is at the end of the day, we're the position that hands out the trophies. So they race to the top end, and that's where we are with all the assets, the medal, the hat, the trophy. And I'm doing our interview with J.R. Todd, who's our funny car driver. It was his first win in over 400 days. And he had said earlier in the day, drag racing will test your patience. And so with him, I went in the direction, you told me earlier, drag racing will test your patience. How much perseverance did this trophy take? And I could not get out the word perseverance. I flubbed it like 2 or 3 times, but like 5 years ago, I would have been mortified. Like, oh my God, I just ruined that moment. But like now it's, oh, I said a word wrong. Gosh darn it. So
Yeah.
it's stuff like that. Like it's the strive for being perfect. It's like knowing that we're human, that we make mistakes, and knowing that like, oh, the audience knows what I'm capable of. My bosses know what I'm capable of. The drivers know what I'm capable of. And apparently I just can't say the word perseverance when I'm trying to say it fast. So lesson
No,
learned.
it's such a good point though. And I ask that question because I think especially for younger women coming into this industry, there's so much pressure to be perfect. And I think a lot of our personality types are perfectionists in this space. And so it's really easy to get caught up in those moments. But I love that there's literally a real time example of, hey, I just couldn't say this word. Like it is what it is, it's to shake it off and move on to the next. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. So I'm curious too, as we're looking at kind of overarching, you're going into a weekend, an event weekend. Walk us through what your experience is like, the prep of it. You mentioned, you take some notes, you do some boards, and then really, what does it look like when it's go time for you?
So they're all different. And at this point, this year I'm covering roughly five different series, and then doing some other, whether it's events or doing some marketing campaigns for different brands. But all of them, they're same but different. I say the same because they all require prep.
Mm,
And to me, prep is researching, reading, doing a lot of due diligence. For all of my series, I have Google alerts that are set to the series, set to teams, set to individual drivers. So if, in my sports car series, if Philip Ellis wins a race in Bathurst or like sets a pole lap at the Nürburgring, or I'm going to get those alerts back in the US so that when Philip is racing in my series, I'm already well ahead of that context of. So I think what I have trained my brain to do is to just always be absorbing what's
yeah.
happening. And I started doing that in the beginning when, frankly, things just didn't make sense, right? Like when you're building your foundation of what it is that what it is that you can relate to, what it is that you can add to. For example, in sports car racing, I'm in the SRO organization, Stefan Rattel. We do GT3, GT4. We also have the single make series for the Toyota GR Cup. We do the McLaren Trophy. So there's weekends that I'll have 120 entries through the weekend. My first weekend with them back in 2021, well, one, everyone still had masks on. So
Yeah.
you're meeting people, and for the first time, also, like, I'm sitting in the media center watching cars go by. Okay, this is this manufacturer with this livery, with this car number, these drivers, this manufacturer, this livery, this car number, this, and like at each time they went by the finish line, I'm like, okay, that was the Porsche of Jan Halen and Fred Porta. It's like you're doing all these things at the time. That becomes easier over time with exposure and experience. So that series required a different level of commitment and prep than necessarily drag racing, where for me it was year one. I want to learn all the drivers, the teams, why this matters to the drivers, what their storyline is, how long have they been looking for a championship, is this their first win, is there a breakthrough moment, someone switching from top fuel to funny car, like very surface level. Now in my 10th year with drag racing, disgustingly, my brain will remember exactly what top end I was at a certain moment in someone's career of like, oh, that was Houston when so and so went off the edit. It's just it's imprinted there. These are like I
Yeah.
don't have to read it. I don't have to read someone's history. It is my history. So
Hmm.
that's kind of like where things change. And now being in my fifth season with the SRO organization, NASCAR. This is my third or fourth year doing trucks and ARCA. So it those things become having it been lived experience. You also know someone's track record uh,
Right.
in a way alongside your own.
No, that's such a good point. And I feel like something that you said just at the beginning of that kind of answer was that you were just willing to absorb everything that's happening. And it kind of was out of necessity when you first entered the industry. But I think that's so important because, especially for those that are interested in entering motorsports, there is this intimidation factor of, well, I'm supposed to know everything, and you definitely don't. So I love that you went from learning kind of the basics to now it literally being your experience and being able to speak from that, even when you're not even trying to think about it, it's there. So I think that's huge. And that kind of, I want to transition in as well to the next question being, you talk a lot about how we can support women in this industry. And I think that it's a much more inclusive space now than it was when either of us started in the industry. But what are some of the biggest opportunities? And then what are some of the biggest barriers that you're still seeing here?
I don't know. So the opportunities I would say in like the media space right now is there's a lot more um in the terms of like the pyramid of opportunity, right? Like I think the bottom is very fat right now in like the best way possible. You can have a podcast. You can work for your athletic department at your college and get reps on air. You can do things on your cell phone and be your own independent journalist. Like I think there's a lot of opportunities to have reps and to get comfortable with your voice and to get comfortable in what your narrative is or what it is that you want to provide the space. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of that that we're still probably even scratching the surface of how blended the media landscape can be, whether it's social media based, whether it's podcast, whether it's I do sports and I do fashion. Like there's a mixture of the voices now. Now, I will say where the challenge becomes, I do think that as you move up the the pyramid, the opportunities unfortunately are less and less. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that those things exist not only from, if you look at the environment within television, you have so many households have cut cable over the last 10 years that lowers demand, right? What else would be some inputs? Just changing in habits. Luckily in sports, we're still kind of protected that people like to tune in for
Mm-hmm.
sports. So live sporting rights still hold a lot of weight. Um, However, I would say also with the changes in technology for production, and broadcast can be produced a lot cheaper than, let's say, even 5, 10, 15 years ago. I do think that networks make decisions to to protect efficiency over quality sometimes. So I think that also comes with, not every college football game has a sideline these days. Not every basketball game has a courtside reporter. A lot of times the analyst is feeling both roles. A
Yeah.
lot of times if they can put a headset on the head coach at the table at the end of the game, that takes away the need for an extra camera person, a reporter, and a utility.
Mm.
A cost of, and then not only the human capital, because if you have an extra camera, you're paying for the equipment, as well as if it's an RF camera or if it's cabled. I mean, you're probably looking at 8 grand from just having one additional talent camera guy. So I do think that productions make those decisions. not against someone's talent, but against their own budget. So while I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of opportunity at the bottom, I do think that the opportunity becomes pretty limited as you kind of grow up in your career. And I am always open and honest with that with kids that I mentor or anyone that calls me. As someone that reached out to a ton of people when I was in that space, I always remembered the people that helped me and the people that couldn't have cared less
Yeah.
who I was. So I've always made sure to, it's such when you're in your 20s and you're young, there's a balance of eagerness and there's a balance of, I hate that they get a bad rap of like, oh, they're so entitled or they're so, I actually think that it's ambition. And it's like a relentless ambition. I almost miss that part of me, like where I was just so like brazen and bold and like I just walk up to anyone and you get older, it's like, oh, like back then you're just like
Especially now post COVID, it's like weird. We're
10 emails until you answer me.
yeah, yeah, literally.
I love that in younger kids and I like supporting that, but I'm very honest with them that, and I use this example as someone who is a very dear friend of mine. If you, let's say your goal in life is to be the voice of the Chicago Cubs. If John Shambi is the voice of the Chicago Cubs for the next 20 years, you might not be the voice of the Chicago Cubs. So as much passion as someone can have, as much talent as someone can have, I think timing is that almost the sweet spot of opportunity that I think everything that you do in your career is to set yourself in a place that when that timing, hopefully, and can happen, you're the only person that they're thinking of at that time. And
Mm-hmm.
that comes from all of the bricks and the foundation that you've already laid that, hey, we need someone to fill in for so and so. I'm calling Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
You've built up that repetition, or you've built up the repetition, you've built up the reputation, and you've built up the trust within your bosses and within your market. But those are things that take years to do. You do see people that get plucked out, right? And by all means, like, hell yeah, girlfriend, hell yeah, brother, like go get it. But a lot of it is a lot of you know hours, and everyone's story is their own. Like I worked a second job, whether it was bartending, waiting tables, stage managing for ESPN, like even up until probably less than 4 or 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
On top of doing, like, in Chicago, I had a full-time studio gig,
Yeah.
still needed to wait tables. So it's everyone has their own path to it, but it's all building up that foundation that when the opportunity presents itself, you're ready.
Yeah. I think you just shared some really, really great insights. And especially, I think there is this idea of a little scarcity complex, whether that's as you go up the pyramid and availability is just lessened, or how many people are fighting for the same. And to me, that says, you just said something a second ago, this one task or this one piece can replace three people. So really that tells me, encouraging people to have multifaceted skill sets and not just honing in on one has become increasingly important in today's day and age. And also what you just kind of shared about the persistence and resilience in sticking around for years of developing these relationships, because I do think we live in such a world of virality where we see someone just pop off and just overnight become a success story. And the matter of fact is we haven't seen the work they've put in for years behind the scenes. And I think that's so easy to forget that when we feel, we're pushing for something, we're driving for something, and it's not happening, it helps us when we feel that defeat a little bit, that it really isn't something that happens overnight more often than not, but rather what you're saying, that you've already laid the groundwork. And now when the opportunity has arisen, you're prepared, you're top of mind. I think that that's really, really insightful. And I was going to ask next, what's a piece of advice you might have for someone looking to enter? And I think you just alluded to some great insights, but is there maybe something specific you might tell someone that's interested in getting involved in this industry now in today's day and age?
Yeah, everyone tells you to chase your dream, follow your dream. No one really like prepares you for what it's like living it, right?
That's
And
so true.
interesting thing of when, and don't get me wrong, like as there's still so much that I want to do. There's still, with one of my closest mentors, we have for years, anytime I would get a new gig, I would send him the emoji that's the red light, like the alarm, like here we go, here's another one. And so for Christmas one year, I sent him an actual red light that you can turn on. So anytime I get good news or I get a new job, I send the button and he like films a video. It's like, great, new opportunity. And
That's so cool.
I live for those moments, right? Like I live for a new opportunity, or I live for that someone thinks that I'm the right person for what they're doing. And it isn't without, in our world, and granted, I'm sure it's different for each sport that someone works in, or there's seasons, right? So a baseball season, a basketball season, a football season. Motorsports were February through November. As we were saying earlier, me having the problem of saying no to anything, the last 3 years, I've worked probably 37 to 40 weekends a year. This year is the first time that the different series that I cover, they all kind of stacked on each other this year. And initially I was like panicked, paralyzed, like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to upset one of my bosses, or what do you mean I'm going to have 2 weekends off? What? Like, what am I going to do with myself?
Yeah.
And it's been a nice, and again, I'm assuming that things, schedules always change. Who knows what 2026 will look like for me. But this year, for example, I'm currently in Charlotte, did a little thing for the High Performance Expo yesterday. Traditionally, I would be headed to a racetrack this weekend, but I'm headed to Charleston, South Carolina to celebrate a birthday with one of my best friends that I have not been able to share in 12 years. And that is what I try to stress to kids that I mentor. There's one thing of wanting the dream. Living it is with a lot of sacrifice. And it is with a lot of patience from people and family and friends that love you. I have missed weddings. I have missed, and it's not, I don't even take, like, and I think of this because it's so special and so loving to me. I still have a girlfriend. I've yet to go to one of her firstborn birthday party, but I get the invite every year. She knows I can't make it most times, but to still be included is so meaningful to me. But I also recognize that these are during that birthday party, right? Like she's not thinking, oh, Amanda's not here. She's with her child and they're having fun and there's probably a bouncy house and all this stuff, but I miss it. These are memories that I will never have because of the pursuit of this dream that literally takes me all around the world. And so you have to be really comfortable with that sacrifice. And I don't want to get on a soapbox and say, woe is me, this is lonely. It's a set of choices, right? And I do feel that I have a very strong network of friends and family that know how hard it is, and battling air travel is its own job these days.
Lord.
So there's a lot that goes into it. So yeah, I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful. My the different television crews that I work with, they all become your family. And I do also recognize that this is a moment of time in my life.
Hmm.
It's inevitable at some point it'll change. Is
Yeah.
that change, one of my coworkers retires? Is it a change that our boss moves on to another network? So to kind of stay present and stay in the moment of where things are right now, in balance is what I try to uh, remind myself of. And yeah, no, I mean, it's not always easy, but for me, it's worth it.
No, I appreciate that authenticity so much because this is such a passion driven industry. And I do think, for a lot of people that maybe are coming from being fans to wanting to work in it, it is not the glamour that you see on TV or that you see as a fan watching. And I definitely can resonate with what you just shared about, the sacrifice, what that means, but it's all in the pursuit. So as long as you still have that passion, that's what keeps you here. And the more I find it, this industry is full of people that I truly feel like once you're in it, you can't get out. But it's because we thrive off of that chaos. It is exhausting. It is choices. It does come with sacrifice, but it's simultaneously what's fueling all of us. And I think that that's something that helps us to have that kind of familial response and dynamic that a lot of us do. I mean, even you and I, we've crossed paths at a few events, and there's this mutual understanding of what we have done to get here and what that means. And I think that that's something that outside looking in isn't quite perceived.
You are right. Once it's in your blood, it's there.
It really is. It really is. So let's pivot a little bit. Obviously, you have quite the tenure of reporting and broadcasting. What is maybe one of the most memorable interviews that you have done? And I feel like this is a little bit of a loaded question, but
There's like 100 that just,
I'm sure.
there's different ones for different reasons and magnitude. I would say in recent memory, oh, I don't know why I just got kind of little. Last year, John Force had a very horrific crash in Richmond, Virginia. Um, I am normally the first on site reporter to crashes. And my protocol is when a crash begins, I have a monitor at the top end that I'm watching. I I don't even see how the crash ends. I get on my golf cart with my camera guy and I start heading down track because you never know where the car is going to end up.
Hmm.
So I remember being on my golf cart and I'm on my mic, on my talk back, asking my pit producer, like, is John okay? And normally, the response is, yeah, they're fine. They're fine. It's about this part on the track. And the way that Richmond was set up, there was no direct path to the track. You kind of had to go around trees and then kind of go back down where the track was. And I just remember like the silence from my pit producer that just didn't feel right. Uh, we get on the crash site. The beautiful thing about drag racing, and I've seen it literally bring a man back from knocking on death's door. Um, our safety safari is at a crash or like at a moment within 30 seconds.
Hmm.
And so when you think of someone that is in trauma,
Yeah.
like to have response like that is our safety safari gets a ton of praise and accolades, and they deserve every single one of them.
Hmm.
In John's case, came out of his race car, was alive, animated, conscious, went in the ambulance. His daughter and his teammate Austin Prock went in the ambulance. John Force left our racetrack miraculously in a position of holy cow, like this man just, this legend of a drag racer just survived this horrific crash. Unfortunately, after John Force left our track, that's when the complications began. Was put into a coma. I think had some struggles within that. The family's been very private, as they have every right to be. What we do know is within that next week, Brittany Force canceled the race that she was going to race at the next time to be at the hospital. There was almost no news coming out of John Force Racing, so you knew that it was pretty severe. So that was, I'm trying to think, his crash was at Richmond. I would say that was June of last year.
Mm-hmm.
In October, at the Vegas race, John Force returned to the track for the very first time in support of Austin Prock and Brittany Force. John Force Racing made him available for one interview. Get journalist, television, print, one interview. And he asked for me.
Wow.
And I have had moments with John Force over the years. You know, I don't know in my career again if I'll ever share parallel time with literally a legend.
Yeah.
Like I've been able to, I was with John for nine seasons, and, you know, wins, ups and downs. Like, am I currently covering a great in one of the motorsports that I cover? Maybe, but this one is established. Like he is the GOAT.
Yeah.
So for us to have that moment together, and I just remember being so nervous from a standpoint of driving over there, of you know, how's he going to receive me? How, you know, I want this interview to honor him. I wanted to honor his fans. Like, this is the first time that an audience has heard from him.
Yeah.
Like, to just really beautifully encapsulate that moment for, you know, in that moment, I wasn't just a reporter, I was a fan.
Right.
And when we finished the interview, like John had done after every interview in the prior 9 years, after camera's off, the camera actually was still rolling. I have it on tape, which is nice. But he just looks at me and he says, "How's mom?" And I'm like, there he is.
Wow.
There's John Force. So that to me is a really memorable one from a standpoint of just the impact that someone has on millions of people.
Yeah.
In John Force, and including his impact on me. The other ones that come to mind, Doug Coletta had been trying for a Top Fuel championship for 20 years. Finally locked it up at the 2023 finals in Pomona, California. I'll never forget when he made the turn to come to where we were at the top end, and every single safety safari person was on their feet clapping for him as he made his turn. So just things like that. I mean, and from a standpoint of just like across the spectrum, like doing, even back in the college years, like I've interviewed Shaquille O'Neal, I've interviewed Larry Brown, doing Mario Andretti during a trucks race, like just different things like that, like the people that you come across. But seeing people achieve and win something that has meant everything to their that's the ones that always kind of linger with you.
I think that's huge, especially across your tenure, you know, seeing John through the ups and downs, through such a tragedy like that, and then to come out of it and still have, you know, the humanity to ask, how's your mom? And, you know, just seeing that full circle. I feel like that must be a one reminder of fulfillment for you in your role. And then also just keeps you there, because what a beautiful thing to be able to share. And that's your whole job, is getting to highlight and share these stories. And I think that must really help in fueling, you know, why you wake up every day and get it to do what you do. I think that's huge. So as we're closing out here, Amanda, I've got to ask, what are you most excited about in the next couple of years for your career? What are things that you're looking forward to, whether it's another role, whether it's the next projects you have coming up, whatever it may be? I know you alluded schedules always change, but I've got to know if there's anything that you're really looking forward to.
Yeah, I think as much as things are consistent, this year, I think things really changed for me from a standpoint of just really being around the people you love working with. So if nothing changed, I would be perfectly happy. What I think is that is unique and fun about that is even if nothing changes from a structural standpoint, there's always changes within it. So this past
Yeah.
weekend, being able to fill in for our lead play-by-play, this year with the sports car series that I cover, just last week, I found out that I'm going to Japan. So
So
there's
jealous.
always these kind of surprises that happen within it. I've been doing a lot of work for Motor Trend lately that's taken me out to LA and being able to see friends and family out that way more consistently.
Wait, Amanda, will you be at the Hot Rod Power Tour?
I will not be at the Hot Rod Power Tour, but
I was going to say, I'll be there. We'll see each other.
I have people working on it, and I just around yesterday. Shout out KB because she's lovely. But no, I will not be out there. So Motor Trend, they're doing a lot. They were acquired by Hearst, and so their business model is changing quite rapidly. And it's awesome to see, a lot of my friends and to see things go in a direction that is fresh and new and exciting. So to be drawn back into the fold of that is kind of fun. So I think not to bring our circle of conversation back, but I think it goes back to that foundation of the repetition, reputation, all of those, that work that when something changes for someone, the thought is, oh, Amanda will be perfect for this. Yeah. I don't know if they're, I have your agent always asks you like, what's the gig that you want? What's the gig that you want? And I really, I do like the surprise that happens in this industry. And truthfully, if there was this like one big gig that came along, it would take me away from so many things that I already love. And I don't know if that's worth it, to be honest.
I think that's a great answer. Like, I think we are in this, I think just our personalities, it's easy to always look for the next thing and like, what's the journey? What's the next goalpost? But what a fulfilling statement that you just shared of like, if nothing changed, that's okay. I think not enough people feel that for their work. So I think that's amazing that you get to experience that.
Yeah, I think there's something to the appreciation of now,
Yeah.
because things will inevitably change, whether on a personal level or someone else's personal level.
Yeah.
Like things just change for people. Someone might get tired of being on the road so much and wants to work less races, or we have a satellite office for NHRA now that a lot of our employees can work out of Indy and not necessarily come all the way on the road with us and work out of the television truck. Well, that hurts my feelings because I want to see the people that I work with.
Yeah.
So, things like that are always changing and evolving. So, I think there's the knowing that things will change. It's feeling really safe and proud of what exists right now. So
I'm excited for you for that. And I'm eager to continue seeing what your career looks like and what opportunities do end up arising in the future. Amanda, where can the listeners follow along so they can kind of see what you're up to and keep up as well?
I know I'm not the best at social media, but I try to do what I can. So I have an Instagram handle, Amanda Busick. I'm on Twitter as well. Normally it's just retweets from things that were tagged in for like a production schedule and stuff. I have a website that goes a little bit on my history if someone wants to see my background. There's also a contact me area. I try to get back to questions or emails as best I can. But yeah, I'm in a whatever your flavor of motorsports is, I'm probably touching some of it somehow. So whether it's drag racing, the NASCAR side, the sports car side, and then different automotive stuff within. But yeah, that's how to get in touch with me.
That's perfect. And I will say, I also struggle with social media. It is not my preferred method of creation or posting, but I do love seeing the content that comes out of the projects you're working on. So that's always exciting to share. Amanda, thank you so much for spending just a little bit of time today, sharing some of your insights, some kind of experiences that you've had. And listeners, thank you for tuning in this week, and we will see you next week.
Thanks.
Bye.